Now let's have a look at how the information is stored in our cells, because this is very important to get our heads around before you go any further. Every single strand of DNA has genes on it which are recipes. Now all of these recipes are stored in the DNA rope, but the problem is that DNA rope, when you add it up, it's over 1 meter long. It is very, very long. You try and imagine if each one of these recipes was like an address that you had to find. So every time you needed a recipe, you needed to know where to go to get that recipe. If you had an address that was one address out of 20 to 25,000 addresses on one street, you'd find that awfully hard to go and find that particular recipe or house if it's a street. So the way our body does it is it actually breaks down this rope into more manageable pieces, not only so it can store the information better, but also so it can find it better and replicate it better. And the easiest way to think of it is like an encyclopedia. Imagine if that one rope was one great big book and you had to fit 25,000 different recipes in that book, in amidst a whole heap of other DNA that doesn't encode for proteins. It's huge, it's way too big to handle, and the cell can't easily find information because of that. So what the cell has done is taken that one rope and chopped it up into different books or sections. So that one rope of DNA has now been cut up into many, many different books, and each one of these books has specific recipes in them. Now if we have to send or find a particular recipe, all we need to know is what page it is and which book it's in. So it makes it an awful lot easier than having that one big recipe book that was too big to handle. And that's what DNA does. It takes that one long, over 1 meter of DNA and chops it up into sections like this. So you end up with, so the DNA is broken up into all of these pieces, 46 in total for a human being, but that actually changes depending on the species. We have 46 different pieces of DNA. Now the other thing to remember is that we have a duplication system. That DNA actually has pairs of these pieces or chromosomes. So each one of these pairs has the same recipes on them, but they're duplicated because one piece came from mum, one piece came from dad. The recipes or the genes that are on them are the same, and if one doesn't work, you have a backup. So we have 46 pieces of DNA in our system, in each cell. They are duplicates of each other, except for the chromosomes that encode for sex if you're a male. Each of those pieces means that it's a lot more easy to handle than if the DNA was kept in one great big strand, and it makes it easier to copy and pass on to our children as well. Each one of these pieces is called a chromosome. So when you think about it, because these guys here are duplicated, that means you have a pair of chromosomes. We have 23 pairs of chromosomes in our cells. This is what it looks like if you actually look at our DNA. This is the human genome. We have 23 pairs of chromosomes, so the DNA is chopped up. Each part of this pair was received one from one parent, one from the other, so that the full cell component has 46 individual pieces or 23 pairs of chromosomes in them. Now, as I said before, each of these chromosomes has specific genes on them. So the chromosome, the number of the chromosome and everything is the address of that gene. So if we're looking for a specific gene, we know what chromosome it's on, we know roughly where on that chromosome to find it. That's the address of that gene, and that is unique to every different species. So here's some genes up close. Here are pictures of some of our human chromosomes, and as you can see, they have different numbers along here, which is actually the genes that are found on them. So each one of these darkened sections is a gene that encodes for a protein, and this is always where it's found on that specific chromosome in that specific spot for that species. So every time our body wants to find and turn on the gene for, say, eye color, it knows what chromosome it's on and it knows where to find it on that chromosome. So that's essentially how chromosomes and DNA link to the alleles that we've been talking about. All it is that our DNA is broken up into strands. Each one of those strands is a chromosome. There are pairs of those chromosomes, so we have backup copies of everything, and the recipes for specific things, the genes, are found in the same spot on those chromosomes together in the same address. Different variations of these genes are what we call alleles. And there you have it in a nutshell. The next video will be on the other components of how living things record and pass on genetic information.